what Helena said about like you want your kids to really know you, I think that really gets to the heart of the matter in terms of what it is to be a present parent. And also like that's what everyone wants. Our kids want us to know them, just and to really observe and see and like you should know your kids as well as anyone in the world until they're, older and leaving the house. And I think that's what people really want out of these family relationships is to be really seen. And, you can spend 3 hours a day with your kids. You can spend 12 hours a day with your kids and really not choose to see them and not make them feel seen and have a relationship that's really strained because of that.
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. Our story today starts with one Miss Emma Greed. Boss, mom, CEO. She was recently in hot water for comments she made on The Breakfast Club.
I want to be really honest about this. I spend all my time working and I'm a mum of four. Mm-hmm. I think that I am a core memory mum. I'm not going to walk it back.
And The Today Show.
I think that what happens to women is that we're held to such an impossible standard, both as parents, but also as businesswomen. And what I'm trying to do is be really honest about what it takes and be really honest about the things that I don't do. Because everybody says, how do you do it all, Emma? How do you wake up at 5 and run the companies? And I'm like, let's give a list of all the things I don't do.
But what I'm interested in isn't the media tour for her new book or the rage bait. I'm interested in the backlash to the idea that a mom shouldn't have to spend all her time being a parent. And what does that say about the way we think about moms who work? I'm here with Kathryn Jezer-Morton, writer of the Brooding column from The Cut, and Helena Andrews-Dyer, journalist and author, to find out. Kathryn, welcome back to It's Been a Minute. And Helena, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you both here. So I want to start with the visual that Miss Greed is painting of herself. A high-earning mother who, due to the demands of her various jobs, may not be able to spend tons of time with her children on an average weekend, but she seeks to make up for that in other ways in order to give them the life that they deserve. Why do you think that she has gotten so much attention and backlash for her comments about being a 3-hour mom? Okay, Helena, you're laughing.
I was gonna say, I think the title, the headline, 3-hour mom, right? It's so misleading, and it feels like, okay, so she's just checked out. Like she's only with her kids for 3 hours, out of the
twice a week.
20, yeah, you know what I mean? It's this idea that like she's only with her kids for 3 hours. How could she? How dare she be the type of woman, be the type of mother who doesn't want to be with her kids all the time? I think just the nugget of 3-hour mom, like is as if that's like a new type of mom, right? We've got the tiger mom, we've got the trad wife mom. Now we have the quote unquote 3-hour mom. Like, what is that?
Yeah, I have no clue. I'm like, I don't know if anyone's there with a timer to see if it's actually 3 hours, but it does feel like, to your point, almost like another sort of flavor of a type of mom that's like a standard to maybe fit into or to try to aspire to. I could see how that would be kind of frustrating for people who maybe want to be like her, and also people who find what she's doing reprehensible, or what she says or how she frames what she's doing reprehensible. Kathryn, what do you think? Why do you think this has been something that's caused so much ire?
So, to me, there's so much here about wealth that is going unspoken. Like something that I find so interesting about Americans, and I'm saying this as a Canadian right now, is that like it's really hard for Americans to develop any kind of class solidarity, because I think that every American, or I don't want to speak for all Americans, obviously, but there's a sense that like, even if I'm not rich now, who knows, like someday maybe I will be rich.
Temporarily disgraced millionaire.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes. And so we don't, and now I'm speaking because I'm a dual citizen, so I can say we also. We don't like to think of ourselves as that different from the wealthy, because it could one day be us. And so to me, I see this story and I'm like, this woman is very wealthy. She is not like us. I'm never going to be like her. Her reality is completely unrecognizable to me. I really think of rich people, like people that are that wealthy, as living on a different planet than the rest of us. Like what she does has no relevance to anything about my life. So I really don't care. But I think a lot of people are like, I am implicated in this reality. This has something to do with me because,
Hmm.
I'm not that different from this incredibly wealthy woman. And I think that the kind of unspoken part of the story is that there's a staff that is doing the caretaking the rest of the time. And like there are a lot of working class women who are also 3-hour moms because they're working all the time and they don't see their
Mm-hmm.
kids. They like get home and they're like, okay, dinner and bedtime. And we don't this is a different category of reality because they have to be at work. I think that the part that people are like freaked out about is that the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the time on the weekends there's nannies and chefs and people who are in her employ. And we haven't quite gotten to the bottom of like, our discomfort with that. But I think that's where the discomfort partly lies.
I do think I
Yeah.
think that's a very, very important point. Oh, Helena, go ahead.
Yeah, because I think to Kathryn's point, if you're giving advice, right? Because her book is essentially advice to women who want to be ambitious, specifically women who want to climb the corporate ladder and make money. Like that is who
Which is
she's
a
talking to.
specific type of
Yes,
hustle. That's a
it's a
specific
small
type of thing
niche.
that you're trying to do. Yeah.
It's a very small niche, right? And so if you say then, oh, I'm this type of mom and we should all be, or we should all aspire to this, or this is something that everyone can do, I think that's where a lot of the ick comes from moms who are like, well, honey, we all can't do this. We all, and she said in the Wall Street Journal article, literally the next paragraph, she's like, hey, I have a chief of staff, I have
Mm-hmm.
nannies, I have a
A
chef, I
chief
have
of
a
staff of her other
driver.
staff. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a driver. Like to Catherine's point, this is a totally different reality.
According to Forbes, her net worth is around $400 million. So, yes, a totally different reality.
To frame it as the we, right? Like who is we? Who is we? Because it's not me, and it's not even the idea of it's the working mom. Like beyond this is the working mom. This is like the working mom who's an ER doc. This is the working mom who is like, the college professor still can't do all of these things, right? Who still might be
Mm.
in upper middle class, and she don't have all this stuff. She does not have access to this vision of motherhood that Emma seems to be laying out as, oh, this is what we all should aspire to. And it's like, but everybody can't get that. And you know that. And so that, I think, where the rage comes from, I think that's where the rage comes from.
I think there's another vein of outrage here, which is like a kind of person, sometimes women, often men, who are outraged at the idea that she is not with her children all of the time. That is something that has definitely brought out some animus in a certain type of person who types a lot on the internet. And what's interesting to me about that is that, like, yes, this is a certain type of very wealthy woman. But the other thing that I've noticed within at least this sort of very gendered vein of commentary, where people are upset that she's a mother who doesn't seem to want to be stuck to her children 24/7, is that, like, if we were talking about a father who was a CEO, and like we spend a lot of time, I think, in at least especially in American culture, talking about the CEOs who also happen to be fathers and whatever they're doing or not doing. I think about what's that guy, Brian Johnson, the guy who's trying to be young forever. Like, he infuses his son's blood into his veins or something like that. But it's very interesting how whatever he's talked about in the media, that's not talked about as like a parenting issue. There is something that's kind of funny to me about like people being like, well, she's not spending any time with her children. And I'm like, do we know how much time Sergey Brin spends with his? Like, I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah. We don't know how much time anyone spends with their children. And listen, I was born in 1980. I am a latchkey kid. My mother was a single mother and I'm an only child. When I tell you the amount of time I spent by myself, like all the time, I was with myself all the time. I came home to no one. I had a key, as we all did, around our neck, unlocked my door myself, made myself a snack, watched afternoon cartoons because that was a thing then. And then she probably came home at like 6:30, right? And then we had dinner and then I did my homework, went to sleep, did it all over again, right? Like, this was not someone who was baking cookies. This was not someone who was, sewing me my school uniform by hand or any of the things that we associate with quote unquote good motherhood. And she was a very active and present mother. So this idea that there is a threshold or a litmus test of time you have to spend with your children in order to be a good, active, involved parent is
Hmm.
ridiculous. And I think most mothers know that. Like, there was a point where we were in this like mommy war, and I had hoped we were over it.
I was gonna say, I was like, I'm on the sidelines, but from where I'm observing, I don't know if we're out of the
Yeah,
mommy
they're
war.
Right.
I don't
But
know.
underway. They're underway.
there was a deep mommy war thing that I remember in the like 90s, right? Where it was like work work from home, or not work from home, that didn't exist. Stay at home mom versus working
Hmm.
woman, and what was better for your children and what could people do? But this was also a class issue, a race issue, so much, right? I had thought we had moved past that a bit because there were so many ways to be a active, present parent. And I think what this debate does is totally reveal that we're still not past it, right? We still don't like the
Mm.
idea that a woman, a mother, would choose herself, right? That's the title of the book is Start With Yourself. That she would choose herself, choose her own time over time with her kids. And it's just like, how dare she? How could she also be a mother and not want every single fiber of her being to be tied up in her children? And I think most mothers, even mothers who don't necessarily work outside the home, most mothers recognize that, right? I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. I promise you, I don't want to spend all my time with those kids. I do not. I love them to the moon and the stars. I don't want them to see me as a person who does not have her own outside interests and does not have things to do with herself besides sit and stare at them all day.
It's my mom. My mom worked up until I was born. I'm the second born. And then for most of the rest of my life, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She had a part-time job at a museum when I was like later high school. And my father traveled a lot for work, but basically Monday through Thursday, most weeks for years of my childhood. Because he worked in sales slash marketing at that time. That involved a lot of like traveling to go meet clients and go do stuff. And my mom did everything with no help and with 3 kids. And so like that, I think if we're talking about the mommy wars, or even if we pull out and we're talking sort of about even present day culture wars, where there are a lot of men out there who think that women should be at home and they should be with their children and da da da. My mom had so much to do. She had so much to do to take care of me and my sisters that I don't know. There's like a fantasy of what it means to stay at home and take care of children. That is very like having witnessed, at least from the child's perspective, firsthand what that looks like. It's so funny to see people talk about this fantasy of what it is to spend to be a stay-at-home parent, because it really is not just like sitting, surrounded by bunnies and ribbons and staring into your children's eyes and playing board games. It's not that. It was like it was so much logistics, so much cleaning, so much cooking, so much planning, so many doctor's appointments, so many of like, hey, can you take me to Staples at 9 p.m.
I want to go back to the mommy wars point that Helena brought up, which, the mommy wars, it's really interesting, like in terms of like the history of media, like, discourse. It really started in the late 60s, early 70s when women joined the workforce, like in noticeably large numbers. And then there was this question of daycare for children and like, should we, provide accessible daycare because now these women are working. And just the question of working women was really controversial in those like early kind of post-war years. And so the mommy wars was basically cooked up by magazines as a way of generating like conversation. And it really pit women against each other. And I
Yeah.
think there was this assumption, and I hate to like throw the media as a category under the bus, but like there was this assumption.
Wow. Self-own. Yeah.
I know. Oh, it hurts. It hurts me to say this, but also it worked, right? Like, let's see if the stay-at-home moms will take the bait that the working moms think they're losers, and the working moms, let's see if they can fight it out about who's a better mom. Like this now, the
Mhm.
attention economy has kind of taken up these sorts of debates, and it works really well to generate, rage bait, right? Like
Yeah.
stay-at-home moms are surrounded by ribbons and bunnies. Working moms are like, cold-hearted harridans, whatever. None of this is true. And I think most of us know it's not true. And yet this debate just recurs. It's like, when are we going to put it to bed? I don't know. It just feels like it's a evergreen conversation. And I think it's interesting that the point of like, what does your time with your children even constitute? Like, I, for
Hmm.
years, worked from home, and a lot of us during COVID worked from home, and we were
Yeah.
Mhm.
at home with our kids all the time. And let me tell you, that was not like a heavy nurturing era in our family's life. Like, it was a lot of, I can't talk right now. Like, what you're doing is none of my business. Like, I'm at work. And like, even today, I mean, I would say I'm at home a lot, but I'm almost always working. Like,
Mm.
I'm working all over my house. I'm at the kitchen table, I'm in bed, I'm at my desk, and my kids will come and have a request, and I'll like be there to respond to it. But am I like nurturing them and building memories? No. I mean, I'm not. And I think, listen, if if uh if this woman is really giving her all for 3 hours every day, like, hats off. That's a lot of concerted childcare. I would say a lot of us never do that.
Well, it's like, what is parenting, right? And for Emma, she's been able to divorce, because Kathryn said caregiving. She has been able
Mm-hmm.
to divorce like the labor of caregiving, right? The cooking, the cleaning, the bath time, right? The sort of
Mm-hmm.
just labor of parenting. Often we call the labor of motherhood, but that stuff, right? She probably doesn't even have to schedule a doctor's appointment. She got a chief of staff, right? Like all of that
She
stuff,
probably doesn't even know about down power wash.
she has taken all of that off of her plate and only left the sweet stuff. She's only left the good stuff, right? The time where you get to just sit and talk to your kids, the time where we're just
Yeah.
running around, the time when we're like in the pool together, going to the beach. Like she'll I feel like she said in that article something like she treats core memories and she treats it as like a limited fashion drop where it's just like they do like something
Yeah.
cool, like
Yeah.
let's go
Yeah.
fishing, like let's go do this. And like that sounds awesome. Who wouldn't
Yeah.
want to do that? Who wouldn't want just the sweet part of any relationship, right? Any relationship, you don't want all the hard labor and you just want the good stuff. And if you can engineer that type of life for yourself, great, right? Most people simply cannot engineer that type of life for themselves, right? Unless
No.
they live very close to family, right? And not only live close to family that are active and participatory and haven't caused you
Yeah.
trauma or you haven't cut off for some reason, right? If you actually have a quote unquote village, we talk about the village constantly, but like if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have it, it's just you and your house, struggling through all of the things we have to do for our kids. And so
Yeah.
I think that's also beyond the fact that so many women, fathers, anyone would want to do the type of things that she's doing, just doing the great part of it. Nobody can really do that, right? We all have to do the crappy parts. We all have to
Well,
clean up vomit. We all have to, you know, brush someone's hair while they're screaming in your face about how much they hate it, right? Like we literally have to do that part and that's not fun. That is not the fun part of parenting whatsoever. And so I think even for some women, like there's envy there. I envy that. I envy that her vision of motherhood or the way that she's able to perform parenting is a way that doesn't have a lot of quote unquote labor involved. Why? Because she saved her labor for stuff that's actually paying her so that she can get this other part.
now it's interesting you bring this up because I mean the kind of experience that you're talking about where it's like you only get the sweet parts of the parent-child relationship. But there are many fathers of a variety of different economic backgrounds who do kind of, to a certain degree, have that experience of being able to spend time with their children in a way that, for the most part, is probably fun or like memory creating.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the rest of their time, to your point, Helena, they're able to spend their time on the job that pays them. And that kind of dynamic, even if I think like over time it has definitely faded. I mean, there are so many different reasons as to why that's not necessarily blanketly the case. So many reasons why that's the case. Women are earning more. Sometimes men are earning less. Women are more educated. Sometimes men are less educated. There are more women breadwinners, and also like fathers have stepped up in terms of, the sorts of childcare and like, housework sort of stuff that they're doing. There's so many reasons that contribute to why that's not always cookie cutter. Like that sort of cookie cutter relationship dynamic is not something that we see as much these days. However, that is kind of how the traditional split of labor goes in a lot of heterosexual partnerships, the traditional split of labor. To a certain degree, it puts the father in a position, the traditional setup puts the father in a position where it's basically culturally acceptable for him to place economic security above his role as a parent, or the economic security is his role as the parent. I wonder, why is that acceptable culturally for fathers, or at least it's acceptable culturally enough that it doesn't really go commented upon, if anybody really thinks about it in a major way. But it's unacceptable from others. There are plenty of 3-hour moms or less, right? Who don't get the opportunity to spend as much time with their kids, or the kind of time they would like to with their kids, because they are outside of the home working. Those women are shamed very often in our society as well. Why is it okay for the father to be outside the home working or spending most of his time doing that, but it's not okay for the mother to do that, even in situations where she may be single and caring for her children on her own, and like, who else is going to go to work?
Girl, you know why?
Say it. You got to say it.
You know why? Society does not want to see women outside of the stringent roles and niche they have decided. And by they, the man, the patriarchy, all of it, society doesn't want to see us get out of that role in any way, because maybe if we do get out that role, maybe we find, which I think a lot of young women are talking about, if my social media algorithm is to be believed, who don't want to become parents, who see the work and see the labor, and they're like, no, thank you to that. I want to live a different type of life. And then that just upends the whole system. Well, who's going to have the babies? What's going to happen? Honestly, it is because society, and I hate saying society, but literally, because we can't see a different way, because we can't see ourselves out of the traditional nuclear family, and don't want to, because who's at the top of that? It's white men. And if we disrupt that system in any way, now we're getting deep. If we disrupt that system in any way, these people will lose power, right? And so, of course, they say, well, no, girl, get back, jump back to your where you need to be. Because as you say, even though more women are in the workforce, there are women who are outperforming, out earning their partners, even though we still make, cents to the dollar in terms of what they make. And white women, black women, Hispanic women, they're still doing the majority of the labor. Every study bears out that it does not matter how much you earn or what you're doing, how much time you spend outside the home. At home, you are still doing most of the childcare and the labor, because it still falls to you, because society still wants us to know that our most important role, and the one that we have to maintain, is as a wife and mother. And I mean, it's 2026, but that is still the case. And I mean, that's the fear of the rise of the MAGA wives and the trad wives and all of this stuff. The underlying piece in all of that is white supremacy. And I mean, I know me saying that, I'm like, oh my God, I sound like a conspiracy theorist. But honestly, that is what it is.
I don't know. I'm like, history is pointing some signs toward toward the point that you're making. But Kathryn, I see you nodding. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Helena said. And I just want to add to it that I think, there's this kind of patriarchal white supremacy that wants to keep, basically white men at the top of the sort of economic power structure. But we also have our economic system, systematically undervalues all forms of care. So like, as long as caregivers are underpaid, as long as there's basically no real economic incentive to do any kind of care work unless you have no choice, and it's just unpaid work, essentially. That's how our whole system is built and has been built for a long time. We're in this really uncomfortable period where in the West, birth rates are going down
Yeah.
because women are like, well, given the choice, I'm going to go ahead and work and have a kid or, wait, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like a demographic crisis. I mean, people are justifiably concerned about what's going to happen. And until we figure out a way to make it possible to have children cared for so that women can work, we're just gonna stay in the same position where basically, women are gonna be sort of we're gonna have unpaid labor that's required of us to do. And I just going back to my very, very first thing that I said about how like class solidarity is so hard because Americans are like, I will be rich someday, so like just give me a chance. It's like no one wants to accept that like maybe we all have to pay like quite a bit more taxes if we want to see some kind of a universal childcare program that might make it
Mm.
possible for like middle class women to afford childcare and like advance their careers and like really make moves in the workplace. Obviously, in a patriarchal system, the way the status quo is the best possible thing to keep going. Like these structures have been in place for centuries at this point, and we're kind of slowly and very uncomfortably negotiating some change. So like when we have someone like Emma Grady talking about her 3-hour motherhood, it's like, it feels like some kind of like crisis situation, some kind of like terrifying, apocalyptic idea, when really it's like, this is a way that a lot of people could live if the world were a slightly more just place.
Hmm. Hmm.
Absolutely. It's like she's parenting like a man, and the men don't like that. They don't like that at all.
But Helena, I know you've spent a lot of time in formal and informal, like mom groups with women across the class spectrum. I'm wondering, like, I don't know, how does that tightrope between managing a career and raising a child, two highly consequential things, how does that come up in the conversations that you've had? Like, how, in your research and your experience, how are people talking about juggling this?
I think, well, so I wrote a book. It was called The Mamas, What I Learned About Kids,
Mm-hmm.
Class, and Race from Moms Not Like Me. And it was about being in this microcosm neighborhood in DC with all these very type A women, because it's Washington,
Mm-hmm.
who mostly all worked and had high powered careers. And for me, what the lives that they wanted to live were the lives that we were told going into college and grad school that you were supposed to be able to get. You were supposed to be able to have the career and then also have the family. And it was supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be this like Claire Huxtable. Even then, you get the reality of it, the Obamas' dreams that we can all
Right.
get what we want and nothing has to be sacrificed. And I think a lot of us, one, recognized the lie of that, especially during COVID, right? Where
Mm.
before that, it was, and a lot of, I didn't make this up, a lot of women repeat this line: you were supposed to work, if you were a working mother, you were supposed to work as if you didn't have kids, and you were supposed to raise your kids
Mm.
as if you did not work. Those two things completely clash and totally X each other out, right? And it's impossible. And I remember
Yeah.
it once I started working from home, and I had oh God, a 3-year-old and like a 1-year-old at that point. It was horrible. And I remember
You were
before that,
working, yeah.
if I ever had to like miss a meeting or had to reschedule an interview, I was a pop culture reporter. I did a lot of big celebrity profiles. Like I would
Hmm.
always like make up the reason before COVID. I'd be like, "Oh, I have another meeting. I have another
Yeah.
appointment, blah, blah, blah." And it would be like I needed to get my kid. You know what I mean? And so during COVID and especially after, I stopped doing that. Like I am a
Hmm.
parent. So I would say in meetings like, "Oh, can you do this interview at this time?" "No, I'm sorry. I have to pick my daughter up from daycare." Or, "No, I'm sorry. I can't do that. I have to do Girl Scouts." Like the reasoning for me not doing something or needing to reschedule something from work, I want to make it clear it's because I also have this other job that I clock into. Well, I never clock out, but I definitely clock in at 5:30 when I pick these kids up. And a lot of the women that I've talked to and that I know were trying to renegotiate what that looked like when it seemed as if we were going to be able to work from home and have more flexibility at our jobs. Our jobs understood what caregiving looked like.
Hmm.
And it seems as if however many years we're out of COVID, we have completely reverted back. And it was like, oh, ha 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 ha. Nope, come back to the office. Like, oh, all you people who had not only small children,
Yeah.
because I'm in a sandwich generation. I have small children and I have an aging parent and I'm an only child. So I take care of her
Oof.
as well. And that lady don't listen. And that is difficult, right? It
Yeah.
is very difficult. But my job, when I was at the Washington Post, I was at the Washington Post for years. They understood that for a while, and understood what that looked like. And it seemed, I don't know, well, we can all debate on why that happened. But the
Mm-hmm.
changes, I would say, over the past year to 18 months have seemed like they're like, oh, no, 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 no. We were going to let parents in general be more flexible and let people in
Yeah.
general like have work-life balance. They literally just like ripped. It was like, ha ha ha, that's not it. Like a magician, like literally like taking a tablecloth off the table. Nope, you don't get that. And that has consequences. And I think that a lot of people are seeing how much work does not fit into sort of their human strategy. You know what I mean? Like that,
Hmm.
I think a lot of people, and whether parents or not, see work differently now because they see that these corporations don't necessarily care about us. Not that we ever thought they did, but it's clear. And how they treat parents specifically, I think it highlights that.
I I have another question. Something I don't know if people know this because people may not know about Emma Grady. Maybe they don't listen to her podcast. Maybe they don't see the little black owned label that comes up on the Nordstrom website. But Emma Grady is a black woman.
Hmm.
I wonder how do you think her race is influencing how this conversation has unfolded?
So I think it's different because I will say, okay, I will say this. I'll start with saying this. I am a Black American woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Emma Grady
Uh-huh.
is a mixed race woman from the UK. And and our experiences, I do not think are the same. And that isn't, I don't measure people's blackness. I don't pull people's black cards. I don't do any of those
Mm-hmm.
things. But I am culturally a Black American woman. And I don't think Emma comes to some of her conclusions about women in the workplace or mothers in the workplace
Mm-hmm.
with the same perspective. Oh, I know she doesn't because she doesn't have my lived experience. And obviously, being Black is not a monolith globally,
Yeah.
and being a Black American woman is not a monolith. But she does not come from the same stuff that I come from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that plays into some of, and she said so many other things besides the whole 3 Hour Mom thing. She's talked about working from home being a career killer for women. Um,
Ah, yes, yes.
and all of, and again, obviously that moms specifically will get their hackles will rise over that statement as well for all the reasons we just talked about, because so many
Mm-hmm.
mothers, caregivers in general, found work from home so helpful. Um, Black women have been pushed out of the workforce by the hundreds of thousands. And these weren't women who weren't working very hard. These weren't women who weren't showing up. These weren't women who weren't in the office. So I think not having that context, or maybe she does, and it just doesn't, because it doesn't affect her personally, it doesn't then affect her sort of advice that she's giving. Not having that context is what I think is part of some of the reaction that she's got, some of the
Hmm.
pushback that she's got, right? And again, I don't like to measure people's blackness, like none of that. But it is a different experience being a mixed race woman from the UK who's married to a white man
Mm-hmm.
than it is being a Black American woman raised in South Central Los Angeles. Like it's not the same.
But I would also add that, like, if you're looking at her as an exemplar of Black womanhood, which, I whether that's reasonable or not,
Yeah.
in like a white supremacist society, I think that there's an expectation that Black women kind of perform a certain amount of humility around just success or having become, hugely wealthy. And this is just not a woman who performs that kind of humility. It's, she's
Hmm.
behaving like has been said, like a man, like a dude, like a white dude. She's like, this is how I do my life. This is how these are my keys to success. These are my expectations for how other people should behave. And, I think that in a society that isn't necessarily comfortable with Black women throwing their weight around in that way, it, it might be reason to get upset, to have, to raise some kind of alarm. So, I mean, it's funny, like, I don't know. I don't feel that I'm like a defender of hers or, an antagonizer of hers. Like, I don't
Yeah.
really have like a dog in this fight in terms of Emma Grady, but I do think that she's certainly entitled to her like wacky workplace ethos. It's really not for everyone, but certainly it seems as though she has come by it very honestly herself, and like, good luck selling books based on that. Seems like she probably will sell a lot.
I think you're probably right. I
Yes.
suspect you're probably right. Um, I wonder, something that has we've been talking about, but I don't think we've actually been able to really name. I want to get into now. What does it really mean to be a present parent? Like, is it in the details of doting on your children, like how Emma Grady mentioned, like cutting their sandwiches into star shapes or whatever, or is it in doing everything you can to provide for them, or a secret third thing? I wonder, but what does it mean to be a present parent? What are we talking about, like when we really talk about what it means to be a present parent?
I think for me, because I mean, and you made this point, Brittany, your mother was a stay-at-home mom for a
Mm-hmm.
good period in your life. But while she was doing the things of mothering, she wasn't necessarily present in your face. You know what I mean? Like when I'm cooking
No,
dinner
not
and then,
24/7.
when I'm
No.
cooking dinner and someone runs in and they're like, what's 35 times 24? I'm like, girl, get out of here. I don't know. I am
Yeah.
perimenopausal. My mind is not going to do that. Right. And my
Yeah.
kids know that. But for me, being present with my girls is really not only locking in and having like real conversations. And again, they're 8 and 6. So, how
Mm-hmm.
real can these conversations get? But um, I really want my kids to know me, right? To know me as a human person, right? To know what mommy likes, what mommy doesn't like, to know
Mm-hmm.
mommy's opinion on X, Y, and Z things. So I like having conversations with them. And for when we lived in DC, one of my favorite times with my kids was walking them from school, not to school, because the walk to school is stressful and crazy and I'm not present, right? To school, I'm like, girl, get your backpack, get your stuff, let's go. I'm not present in that moment. I'm like here. But from school, when I was more regulated, they've like had their day and we could take
Mm-hmm.
the time and just like chat. And they're like fascinating little people. I want to know what they're thinking. They
Mm-hmm.
ask me about my childhood a lot. That's the new thing with the girls. They went, when you were 8, did you do X? And I loved, and I'm going to
Yeah.
tell them, right?
Mm-hmm.
That for me is the present. And that could only be 30 minutes in the day, right? Literally. Because then we get in the house and then I'm like, okay, backpacks off, shoes off, wash your hands, go do this, go do that. I got to make dinner. Now it's bath time. Now it's this. What project are we working on? Oh, you need poster board and you just told me just now you need to get a poster board. Now we got to go to Staples. Like that's a
Yeah.
crazy time, right? But it was a very small window where I felt incredibly present. So in that way, I totally understand what Emma is saying in terms of like this is the time I can lock in. And she has 4 kids, by the way. That's a lot of kids. 4 kids is a lot of kids. I have 2.
That is
That's
a
a
lot
lot.
of
1 is a
kids. Yeah.
lot,
Yeah.
right? So me locking in for those 30 minutes Monday through Friday, I really felt like this is our time. And we spent way more time together, right? I was with them for hours into the night after that, but that wasn't a present time for me. And that's just
Mm.
how I necessarily define it.
Yeah, I think that what Helena said about like you want your kids to really know you. I think that really gets
Mm.
to the heart of the matter in terms of what it is to be a present parent. And also, like, that's what everyone wants. Our kids want us to know them, just and to really observe and see and you should know your kids as well as anyone in the world until they're, older and leaving the house. And I think that's what people really want out of these family relationships is to be really seen.
Mm.
And, you can spend 3 hours a day with your kids. You can spend 12 hours a day with your kids and
Yeah.
really not choose to see them and not make them feel seen and have a relationship that's really strained because of that. And I mean, the only thing that kind of really made me uncertain on a deep level about Emma Grady's parenting from
Hmm.
what we can extrapolate, knowing as little as we know, is
Right.
just this idea that like it is just the sweet stuff. And so like I do wonder, does she have a kind of an instrumentalist relationship to what it means to create like magic moments? Like, is she just looking for these high points, and will she kind of tolerate or feel comfortable with those kind of moments of like your kid is not okay, or your kid is like having a mood and you kind of have to deal with it, and you're like, okay, like what we're doing right now is we're dealing with your mood that is inconvenient and that is like,
Mm.
I don't feel like it, but this is what we're doing right now. Because I think that's what children want from their parents. And that's what we want from our kids, is to just really be people who are very intimately known to each other. And I totally agree that that can happen in 30 minutes a day. Like, it's really not a time frame bound
Hmm.
idea. It's about the quality of our attention and our comfort with just how people are very weird and unpredictable.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Now that you all talking about this, it makes me think back to when I was a child. I actually probably up through like nearly adulthood. In the morning, when it's time for me to get up, I mean, I still don't like getting up to this day. And my dad would kind of like throw the door open and be like, "Get up, it's time," because he used to take us to school or whatever in the morning a lot of the time. Um, and my mom, and also actually, no, I mean, it was kind of like half and half. Sometimes my dad would take us to school. It depends on if we were taking the bus or who was going to what school, whatever. But my dad would kind of get, okay, get up. And my mom, though, she would come in, because I would never get up. And she'd come in and she would lay next to me in my bed, in my twin bed, and just snuggle with me. And she did it well deep into my life. And now when I go visit my parents, because now I get up before her, I'll go, and I'm actually kind of annoying now that I think. I don't know if it's as sweet when I come wake her up and I'm like,
I bet
take
she
off your
likes it.
CPAP and talk to me. Um, but now I still crave that feeling of wanting to get up and get in the bed with her and just be close with her before we start our day. And that's such a small thing that I think about my mom spreading that time among 3 kids every day.
Yeah.
And I also appreciate the fact my mom never made it seem like it was easy. Like, she made a lot of things look easy, but she was quick to let us know the effort that it took to make things happen. But yeah, that's you all just put it so beautifully. That's so beautiful. That's so wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for this conversation. Like I said, I'm not a mom, but I am an ally, and I love to get the perspective when these things happen out in the culture. So thank you both so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
That was Kathryn Jezer-Morton, writer of the Brooding column from The Cut, and Helena Andrews-Dyer, journalist and author. And to all of you watching, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Be sure to come back to this feed every Tuesday for a fresh video episode. You can watch these episodes exclusively on Spotify, YouTube, and the NPR app.